Hi, my name is Steven Stawara, and today I will be demonstrating the aseptic technique for inserting an indwelling urinary catheter. So I have my kit here, and I'll be using a few props. These 3 pens for my aseptic swabs so that I don't have to open up and get iodine all over my house. So the demonstration starts with entering the patient room, performing hand hygiene, identifying the patient using 2 identifiers, name and date of birth, and then kind of explaining the procedure, and that explanation goes into why the indwelling catheter is being placed and kind of what goes on with the placement of the catheter. So that explanation would sound something like, well, you have to have this catheter placed for surgery or because you are going to be sedated, and the process will happen right here in the room. You might feel a little bit of pressure when the catheter goes in to the urethra, but it should be a relatively painless procedure. So I have my kit. This is the kit from our supplies bag, so it was already opened from other demonstrations. Take the kit out, open up the kit, and have my drape here. The hole. So what happened is I would have the patient's legs, knees bent and knees also spread apart, and this drape goes between the legs, and that hole will line up with the urinary meatus. I have my kit between the patient's legs. Now I'm going to apply my sterile gloves, keeping the gloves sterile. So first we'll apply this glove holding the inside of the cuff since it's folded in, not touching the outside. I'm going to leave that there until I get my other glove. I'm going to go on the inside to touch the outside of this glove with this other sterile glove. And then now I can use my gloves, my sterile gloves, to touch the outside of the sterile equipment. So that is no longer needed. This pad will be put underneath the urinary meatus. Alright, and then I have my equipment here. So what I'll do is I will prepare my surgical lube. I'm not going to open it, but I'm going to, you would be putting that on the end of your catheter, and my septic swabs, which I'm going to use these pens for. Put them here. And then I also have my sterile saline syringe for filling up the balloon. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is keeping the catheter sterile, and in the sterile field. It has to be within an inch of the sterile field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the surgical lube and just put the tip of the catheter in that sterile lube so that I can use 2 hands for that. I don't have to try to open the lube with 1 hand. So that remains in the sterile field. And get rid of the supplies I don't need anymore. The next thing that would happen is Before you can start is you have to use these aseptic swabs. And so I will be using these pens. For a female, what you would do is you would keep your dominant hand, my dominant hand is my right hand here. I'd keep this sterile and I'd use my left hand and I would open the labia and use my first sterile swab, and I would swab middle and then right and left. If it were a male with a penis, I would take the swabs and I would go around the meatus in a circular motion and then use the other two to clean the shaft of the penis. Once that is done, I'm going to locate, or I will have catheter that was placed in the surgical lube. I will get that out and I will keep my non-dominant hand either on the penis or the labia and locate the meatus on a male. It's very easy. It's just the tip of the penis, and then with a female, it is going to be below the clitoris and above the vagina. So once you identify that, you gently push the tip of the catheter in, keeping the dominant hand sterile at all times. If your hand touches any part of the patient, then you would have to restart, and along with the catheter. If the catheter touches any part outside of the sterile field, the process needs to start over again. So the catheter would go in. With a female, you would go 5 to 7.5 centimeters. With a male, you would go 17 to 22.5, or until urine starts to appear in the catheter. So that catheter is placed now inside the patient, and then you have your sterile saline. And you would, slowly inflate the balloon. All right, well, it's in there. And now that the catheter is in, you can remove your non-dominant hand from the genitalia and disconnect the catheter. And once that is complete and the catheter is placed, you would get a stat lock and you would put that on the inside of the patient's leg and clamp the tubing down so it doesn't get pulled, and then you would hang the Foley bag below the level of the patient's bladder, and that is how you insert a Foley catheter using the sterile technique. Thank you.